What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Israel Adesanya is not ruling out a return to light heavyweight. Last year, middleweight kingpin Israel Adesanya made the move to light heavyweight to fight then champion Jan Blachowicz in a champion versus champion showdown. It was a bold move considering the last stylebender isn't known for being the heaviest of middleweights, however it was a risk he was prepared to take. Unfortunately for the middleweight champ and his team at City Kickboxing, the fight didn't go his way. Throughout the course of the fight, Blachowicz seemed to get the better of the exchanges on the feet and control the fight on the ground. After 5 hard-fought rounds, Blachowicz was awarded the unanimous decision win. Although it was a rough debut at 205 pounds for the champ, he hasn't ruled out a potential return to light heavyweight. Leading up to his highly anticipated showdown with bitter rival Alex Pereira this weekend at UFC 281, the last stylebender spoke about his desire to lap the 185-pound division once more before testing the waters at light heavyweight again. He spoke to media members during fight week about the situation, saying,
"It doesn't have to be for the belt. Like right now, my other paradigm guy, Jiri's got the belt, so let him do his thing. I just like testing myself. Again, there's heavyweight. I might just pick. I'm not saying I can beat every 205 guy or every heavyweight, but they'll have problems with me. And yeah, there'll be times when, Eugene might say, take that guy out, and I'm like, who? What? All right, bet. And I'll take him out."
Of course, before Adesanya attempts another run at light heavyweight, the middleweight champion must first get through Alex Pereira this weekend. As it stands right now, the odds have Adesanya as a slight favorite for the fight, something the champion was surprised to learn this week. If Adesanya does test the waters at 205 pounds again, how do you see things going for him? Sound off in the comments below. Beneil Dariush gives his prediction for Poirier vs. Chandler fight. Streaking 155-pound contender, Beneil Dariush currently finds himself stuck between a rock and a hard place regarding his status in the UFC's lightweight division. Prior to the UFC 280 clash between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title, Dariush was slated to be the fill-in fighter should either man be unable to compete in the main event. Of course, featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski was then cleared to return following hand surgery, and a deal was inked to make him the fill-in fighter. This left Dariush confused regarding his place in the division. Traditionally, the fill-in fighter is the #1 contender for the division, something that seemed like a done deal to many after Dariush defeated Mateusz Gamrot. Following the main event fight, however, Volkanovski was welcomed to the octagon for his first stare-down with the newly crowned champ. Dariush, of course, was left to wait to discover what the UFC's plans were. Despite his 8-fight win streak, the promotion has indicated that a champion versus champion showdown is likely next for the division. As a result, it sounds as though Dariush could fight the winner of this weekend's Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler fight for the #1 contender spot. Leading up to that fight, Dariush gave his prediction on the bout during an interview with Luke Thomas, saying,
"But I think Chandler right now, he's so focused on being exciting. He's so focused on being entertaining and for the fans. He puts himself in really bad situations. I think if he goes out there, plays a very conservative striking game, a lot of wrestling, he should be able to pull this off. But in reality, I think Dustin Poirier is going to end up winning this fight because Chandler's going to try to be more than he needs to be. And I think he's going to end up losing the fight because of that."
Do you agree with the prediction? Who do you think gets the job done in the People's main event this weekend? Give us your predictions in the comments below. Megan Anderson airs out James Krause and Laura Sanko. Former UFC Women's title challenger Megan Anderson made headlines this week when she seemingly decided to air out some grievances she had with Glory MMA and head coach James Krause. Leading up to Anderson's scheduled title fight with Amanda Nunes last year, the former Invicta champion was training at Glory MMA, where she has since revealed she didn't receive the attention she needed to prepare for the fight. According to Anderson, she only received one 30-minute pad session with the team's head coaches per week, far less than she needed in order to prepare for the greatest female fighter in the history of the sport. While there were rumors that Anderson and Krause had done some extra training together, Anderson responded to a comment regarding the matter by roping Laura Sanko into things. For some time prior to the fight being scheduled, Anderson and the UFC's Laura Sanko hosted a podcast together. However, by the sound of things, the two aren't on great terms now, considering the fact that Anderson just accused Sanko of sleeping with Krause. Interestingly enough, fans have speculated that Sanko allegedly sleeping with Krause could have been what led her to divorce from her husband. So far, no word yet from Sanko regarding the matter. This week, we've got an unreal matchup ahead of us with Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira facing off for middleweight gold. Today's video sponsor, DraftKings, is giving new customers an amazing deal when they sign up using our promo code MMAZone. Any new customers who sign up using our code and bet $5 on either fighter to win before the fight starts will get an additional $200 in free bets if your bet wins. That's an additional $200 in free bets if your pre-fight wager of $5 or more for a fighter to win hits. If you want to heat up the action even more, you can combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, how long the fight will last, and more in one parlay to give you a shot at even bigger winnings. If you're in a state where mobile sports betting isn't available yet, DraftKings Daily Fantasy is giving all MMA fans a chance to cash out this weekend. This weekend, we're most interested in Izzy, Weili Zhang, and Dustin Poirier. Who are your picks? DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code MMAZone. Bet $5 on any UFC 281 fighter to win and get $200 in free bets if your bet wins. That's code MMAZone this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Dustin Poirier disappointed he never got to fight Nate Diaz. Back in 2018, Dustin Poirier and Stockton superstar Nate Diaz were set to square off in a highly anticipated showdown years in the making. The fight was single-handedly dominating MMA headlines at the time, with fight fans eager to see the two sluggers throw down inside the octagon. Anticipation only continued to grow when the two men met face-to-face for a stare-down hosted by UFC President Dana White. Unfortunately for everyone involved, the fight ultimately fell through. Fast forward several years to earlier this year when Diaz was looking to have his final fight in the UFC booked, and a bout with Poirier seemed to only make sense. The UFC then booked Diaz to fight Khamzat Chimaev in a fight that ultimately fell through when Chimaev missed weight. Diaz then wound up defeating Tony Ferguson before riding off into the sunset, revealing that he planned to compete in other combat sports before making a return to the UFC. According to Poirier, the fight with Diaz will always be the one that got away. Leading up to UFC 281 this weekend, Poirier spoke to media members regarding the fight that almost was, saying,
"No, I've always wanted to fight Nate. You know, we tried to make it happen a few times. It always fell apart. It sucks that he's gone down. I won't get that chance to fight him. But it is what it is. Sport moves on."
Poirier also touched on the potential tetralogy fight with Conor McGregor. By the sound of things, it doesn't seem that a fourth fight between the two men will ever take place. With McGregor out for at least the next 6 months pending a mandatory USADA testing period, Poirier is ready to move on from the rivalry and pursue another title shot. First, of course, he'll have to get through Michael Chandler this weekend. And now for our breaking news story of the day.
This past weekend, there was an investigation launched on the Minner and Shylan fight because the line movement went crazy in the hours leading up to the fight. Right. What can you do to even further safeguard the integrity of the sport when this kind of thing happens?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. There's absolutely zero proof that anybody that was involved bet on it. So it's just, there was some, there were some signs out there that something was going on, but there's absolutely no proof that anybody did anything wrong. And hopefully by seeing this again in this investigation, it deters people from doing it, from betting on it. The bottom line is this: you're never going to be able to bet enough money to win. It's not worth the risk to bet on one of these fights. First of all, nobody even took the action on the fights. They just saw that type of action was trying to come in, and it got shut down. But hopefully you see how easy that is to detect now, and the risk is not worth the reward. But it wasn't a big a deal as people were making it out to be. It's not that big of a deal. It happens all the time in sports. There's absolutely no proof that anybody did anything wrong, but you can see now how easy it is to detect if you start doing that. And the bets don't even have to be placed. All they have to do is somebody trying to place the bet. And nobody's going to take a bet that big on an MMA fight.
Alexander Volkanovski promises fans a fight with Islam Makhachev will happen. Since featherweight kingpin Alexander Volkanovski and newly crowned lightweight champion Islam Makhachev had their first stare-down post-fight in Abu Dhabi, there's been little movement on the UFC's part regarding the finalizing of the bout. Initially, it sounded as though a fight between the two men was in the works for the UFC's upcoming card in Australia at the start of next year. A shadow of doubt was then cast over the entire fight when the two men traded barbs on social media, with Makhachev revealing that the UFC has yet to send over a contract to finalize the bout. With so much uncertainty surrounding the fight, it's no surprise that many are wondering whether or not the fight will actually happen, or whether the UFC will opt to book a fight between Makhachev and a top-ranked 155-pound contender like Beneil Dariush before setting up a champion versus champion showdown. During a recent media scrum leading up to UFC 281, Volkanovski spoke to reporters to assure them that a fight between he and Makhachev will happen.
I'm keen, man. I'm bulking. I'm eating a lot of calories at the moment, so it is good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm going to be pretty stacked fight night. So obviously we're looking at Perth. We just got to get that signed and make that happen, and we will. So expect me and Islam to face off in February in Australia, which is going to be huge.
So far, the UFC 284 card in Perth doesn't have a main event. With notable Australian and New Zealand fighters on the card, it only makes sense that the UFC would slate the Battle of Champions as the main event slot. Do you think the fight will happen, or is the UFC going to shock everyone by booking another fight for the card? Give us your thoughts on how things shake out at 155 pounds below. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.